So, Alex, my wife and I have been watching the TV show The Summer I Turned Pretty on Amazon. Have you heard of that at all, other than me mentioning it?
No, you brought it up in the group chat, and that's the only context I've got. So I'm a blank slate here.
Okay. So it's based off of a book series called The Summer I Turned Pretty. It's young. It's like starts with teens. They eventually get into college, but ultimately it's a store. It's a series about a girl who's in love, and it starts at what she calls the summer she turned pretty, which for her is the summer between sophomore and junior year of high school. So my question for you, Alex, is what summer did you turn pretty?
2025. No. I honestly, honest answer. I think the summer between sophomore and junior year of college.
Okay.
I think
Huh.
got a
trying to
little more
remember.
sense of style, slimmed down a
Mhm.
little bit, got my confidence, which I think is half of it.
Sure.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
probably it. How about
Nice.
you?
Nice. The summer I turned pretty was the summer of 2012 after we graduated. That was when I dropped 47 pounds. Still had more hair than I do now, and went on a lot of dates. And so the results were there, Yeah. So, yeah.
Alrighty.
Good talk.
Dad has made some excellent progress today.
Your dad, he's a fun guy, right?
And I love him so much, and I think he's the greatest dad in the world.
Welcome back to Working on the Dad Pod. I'm Alex. With me, as always, is Ethan. And tonight we are revisiting another topic that we've done in earlier seasons, but putting a little different spin on it with sage age and wisdom, with a few more gray hairs on our head and in our beards. We're talking
And
about
less
balance.
hair sometimes altogether.
Sure. Or maybe more hair in places you didn't expect there to be hair. But we're talking about balance, and that balance that comes with finding time for yourself, right?
Mhm.
When we first talked about this, it was a couple years ago. Ethan and I both had 1-year-olds, or maybe even in your case, a sub 1-year-old, when we first broke ground on this topic. And I think as we've gotten older, our kids have gotten older, and our relationships and our muscle memory around parenting, let alone parenting two kids, have changed. I think this topic has changed. Before we get into all of that, we'll have some story time. After that, we will have Working on the Dad Bod. And this is your reminder before we get started to please like and subscribe to this show wherever you get your podcasts, especially on YouTube if you want to see our beautiful faces. I know we just talked them up a whole bunch in the cold open. Maybe they aren't what they once were, but they're as good as they ever were. So make sure to find all of our social channels and our YouTube on workingonthedadpod.com. Ethan, how you doing this week?
I've had better weeks. It is no secret to the millions of you listening that my wife and I are federal employees here in the DC area. And if you have not been following the news, on midnight Wednesday, October 1, so yesterday, it's been almost 48 hours, the federal government lapsed in funding, meaning it has shut down, has resulted in my wife being furloughed. If you don't know what that means, it means she is on unpaid, administrative leave for the duration of the shutdown. I am currently still working, and my agency is currently funded, so I've been going to work. Although I was off today for Yom Kippur. Shout out to my fellow tribesmen out there. And so that's traditionally a solemn day as well. But it has been a not my favorite week. What I will say though and I am trying to find positives, is a couple weeks ago I talked about a really bad dad night I had where I yelled at my almost 6-year-old, and I actually went a little further than that. I was mean, I was cruel, and I was saying things about her that I shouldn't have said because I wasn't downplaying what she was doing wrong. I was actually making her feel badly about the things that make her great. And for about the next 2 weeks, that was kind of all I thought about. I functioned, I was living my life, but I could not really get that out of my head. It was always at best on the back burner. But what I will say has come of that is I have actually not yelled at all in the last 4 to 5 weeks whenever we recorded that. I've gotten upset. I've disciplined. I have been stern, but I have not actually yelled. And I don't know if I'm not going to say that was a good thing that happened to me because it wasn't. I feel terribly still, but I do feel like I have been a lot more aware and cognizant and in control of my emotions since that night because we had talked about how there's that adrenaline dopamine hit of just getting to the end of the argument, and it doesn't matter who the opponent is, you just want to be right and win. But the way I felt after that argument, or not even an argument, but just how I treated her, I just really don't want to feel that again. And I guess that has been staying, a little more subconsciously than it was a little bit ago, but it is in my head, and I've just been better about controlling my emotions. I know my wife is in this room. I can't see her, but she hasn't made me stop talking yet, so I must be telling the truth. So that's good. So
yeah, I mean, I think that's really important, but like it's a good lesson because we all screw up, and frankly, I'm really happy to hear that you've been doing so well, because I think when we screw up as parents, the biggest thing is how we learn from it. You can't turn back the clock, you can't redo it, but you're going to have a lot of chances to do it over with most things, right? There are a few things like first time you talk to your kids about the birds and the bees, or some other sort of core memories that maybe you can't change, but there are a lot of times that you're going to have chances to make up and rebuild that image that your kids have of you in your head. And felt like for a while there in our story times, you were really in a rut of arguing with your daughter. A lot of them centered around dinner tables, but just a lot of like knockdown, drag out fights. And the fact that it's one of those where I don't even think it's a silver lining. Like the only way out is through, and you got through. And the fact that you learned something from it, I think is the important part. I mean, there was probably a point where, if those conversations had kept up, I probably would have said something off camera at a certain point. I don't know when that point would have been, but to not hear you bringing up those fights, to hear you growing, I think is amazing. And I don't mean that to sound any patronizing or anything, but I think it is really tough when you get in those ruts as a parent to find your way out of them. And we've been in one of those ourselves with our daughter, who kind of like yours can lose her temper pretty heatedly. And my wife and I have made a really, really concerted effort, and it takes all of our strength when she raises her voice, and when she loses control of her emotions, staying as grounded as I'm talking to you now. And I won't say that I bat 1,000 on staying grounded, but it is the getting better when she absolutely does it. And it's not even that I'm expecting. I think what's happened with me has been changing, sort of shifting my expectations a little bit. Like it
Mhm.
used to be, I need to win the argument, right? And sometimes there are certain points where it's like, no, you can't go play in the middle of the parking lot, right? You can't
Right.
go run in traffic.
Right.
That I need to win that argument. But there are a lot of times where like it's not about winning the argument, it's about setting the example of like this is how you talk to people. Because I have
Mhm.
gotten more and more concerned as my daughter continues to grow, or be stagnant in this particular area as it is, but get older, move through society, that I'm like, you can't blow up at people like this. You have to
Mhm.
figure out how you do it. And one of the biggest things that I've done with her is she has this tendency to like blow her top, and what we call it is a stop sign. She sees something, she knows that she shouldn't do it. She sees that stop sign in her head of like, "Oh, I'm gonna cross a line." And she does it anyway.
Mhm.
She blows right through that stop sign. And that visual has been really helpful for her for a long time. I've been talking to her about stop signs for at least 18 months.
Mhm.
But what I've done recently is I have spent a lot of time making sure I praise her, because one of the things that I told her over and over again is it is okay to be angry, but it is how you deal with that frustration and that anger that makes all the difference in the world. And so, what I've been doing with her is when I see her getting really frustrated and getting really angry and holding it in, is I go, I
Mhm.
see this. I see you fighting. I see you winning, and I'm proud of you. And the difference that that can make in her attitude when I recognize the inches she's moving in the marathon that is life, I'm like, you need to know that you are doing the right thing as much as, you know, you need to know when you're not coming correct. But
That's
one
good.
thing that I brought up a few weeks ago that's continued to help has been the coupons. I'm not going to sit here and
Mm.
flash deals. Did not bring the props with me this time, but the coupons
Mhm.
have continued to be a great source of motivation. We are not fostering, but we are dog sitting for our friends this week, and the dog is here, in our house, and she loves to tear up my dog's stuffed animals, leave fluff all over
Mm.
the floor, and it's fine, it's whatever, but trying to get the kids to clean up the fluff because it was just all over and we wanted some help, and offered them coupons for it. And we've switched up
Okay.
the system from you get a certain number of coupons and you get them taken away in that same vein to they have now become a reward. You can earn coupons for things. And the beauty of this system so far is they are
Okay.
clamoring to earn coupons left, right, and center, and we have not named what they can buy with them. They are just getting arcade tickets
Hmm.
with no idea what's behind the prize counter at this point. And my wife and I have
Nice.
not been
Nice. I like
especially
that.
motivated to be like, name a price, because right now they're just accumulating them. We'll give you a coupon for, you know, being on your best behavior in Costco. We'll give you a coupon for, you know, cleaning this mess up that somebody else made. We'll give you a coupon if you get ready with inside this time frame, or you stand still and stare at the mirror while you're brushing your teeth instead of dancing around and doing a half butt job, right? So
Mm.
those have continued to work, and they've been helpful in a lot of the attitude adjustments that especially I've seen with my daughter, where you know, it's just like the praising and the noticing when they do well. And so I'm sure you do this, but you know, if it's something that helps you or anybody else out there when you're dealing with a kid who's struggling with their emotions, when they do well in a frustrating situation, praising them, because I think that recognition, it clicks in their head, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do, not just what am I not supposed to do, because I felt like my daughter was spending a lot of time wrestling with her emotions and just hearing, don't do that and not do this instead, because it's very like it's very cerebral, um, and very nebulous, very abstract to say you need to manage your emotions and you need to control your emotions. Like for a 6-year-old, what does that mean? it means not saying the really mean, not calling your dad a weirdo at the dinner table because he asked you to finish your dinner, and like screaming it at him, and like debating and fighting every single second of every single moment after you've blown up. But yeah, that's been helpful. So
All right.
yeah, that's the advice I would give, is just, give that positive reinforcement as much as possible. And I think that's helpful for the behavior change.
Yeah, we've been making a point to let her know in real time stuff that she does really well, and that it's not just a good job for us. Sometimes it's like you said, sometimes it's, wow, that you were just a really good big sister in that moment, or that was really helpful. Thank you. It's like you are, or we'll even just say, what you're doing right now is great behavior, and we'd love to see you continue doing it. Just we try to give her real time praise, so
Yeah, for sure.
So excuse me, I've got post fast burps. So the we broke fast with taco night. I made some steak, some beans, some fajita veggies. It was yummy. So I wanted to bring this back up again, but as you mentioned, our perspectives have changed, and the last time we recorded on similar topics, we were in different places in parenthood. So I kind of just wanted to start by saying, back then, it was really hard for me to sometimes justify getting things for myself, taking time for myself, leaving my wife with the baby or babies to hang out with friends. And it was always something I never felt great about, because it made me feel like I wasn't being a part of things. That also trickled down not just to social life, but sometimes with division of labor. There was a while where I felt like I was doing a lot more because I was the one working from home, and it was easy to pick up these little tasks around the house every now and then. Now we both don't work, or we both work in the office. So it really is a divide and conquer. We kind of have to do our thing, stuff on my to-do list, stuff on her to-do list, or just things we do together. Now we're in a situation. So like I said, it's only been 48 hours, but my wife is on unpaid leave at home. So I'm not going to say that there's an expectation that she does more things around the house, but having been furloughed before, for both 35 days in 2019 and the 16 days in 2013, you can only play so many video games before you are like, I really got to get some stuff done. So again, not an expectation. She's in the room. But, just saying there's probably, the house is probably going to look a lot better knowing that she's here most days until this thing ends. But what about you? If you want to recap for our millions of listeners where you were the last time we recorded as opposed to today.
Yeah, I think for us, like whether it's working on going out guilt or finding time for yourself, I think for both my wife and I, it's been how do we weave this into the routine. Sorry about that.
You're good.
But it is the general idea that like we thrive off of a fairly fixed routine, but we have things that we want to do. We have things that we want to accomplish, and it's about working together on it. And that's not something, I think for some people, maybe their relationship just always operates like that. And I think it's important to be starting from a place of like open communication, to get back sort of into abstract ideas, but starting with open communication and like care and love for the other person, but like actually having the conversation. Because I think where I was a couple of years ago and where I interpreted you to be as well was a little bit of like, we felt like we felt like it was a big ask. We felt like it was a big to do. And we didn't just have the conversation. And there's two ways it can go. You can either bring it up before it's an issue, or you can let it fester and build animosity that you're not able to do it based off of assumptions, and then blow up as somebody who didn't know they were doing something wrong or holding you back, right? And that's not to say that every relationship out there is healthy and every partner is going to respond with the same sort of like, yeah, let's figure this out. But simple things were like, my wife and I talked about, I wanted to play more golf, right? I had sort of gotten out of it when we had little kids because I felt like golf was one of those things that it's a huge commitment of like at least a couple hours if I'm playing 9 holes, and usually more like 4 or 5 hours if I'm playing 18, depending on how fast the course is and I'm not in complete control of my own pace of play. And so that was one of those where I'm like, well, let's start small. I can go to the driving range and I can hit a bucket of balls. So let's figure out a time. And that started being Thursday mornings. And it started being Thursday mornings because my wife had a Pilates class that she was going to at 8:30. So it meant her morning started a little later. And it just worked out that it was convenient because Thursdays were also a day where my mother-in-law would be picking up my son at the gym. So she had a little bit longer to get him ready if I left earlier to get out to the driving range. She didn't need to get him back or get him to school or something like that. But I was able to go out to the range and enjoy myself and sort of weave that into my workout. But where it's continued to evolve over the last year or two has really been the idea of my kids have gotten into it, and specifically my son. Like, we've talked a lot about, my daughter going out to golf academy and this, that, and the other, and she enjoyed it for a little bit, and she's kind of soured on it. She just thinks it's too hot, it's too long. And I'm like, whatever. She's even, like, she doesn't like going to golf academy. She doesn't want to be coached. And I'm like, kid, you're not young Tiger Woods here. You got potential, but like, you're not, like, you say you want to hit the ball further. You say you want to hit the ball every time. You say you want to do this, but then you get mad when this very gentle coach gives you feedback and tells you to do things. And she's like, he makes me stand with my feet together. And I'm like, yeah, that's because it works on your balance because you pirouette in your follow through.
Right.
But all that aside, like, my son's really into it. And so it pivoted into, today was an odd day for us where my wife and my daughter are actually in Texas right now. Hence why I've got my work desk background instead of my wife's she shed. And I took them down to the train station, but I went to the gym this morning because it was just easier. My mother-in-law was going to pick both kids up from the gym, take them out to breakfast, bring my daughter back home so I could take them down to the train. But that means tomorrow, my son and I are going to go to the driving range instead because it's just me and him, and I've just got to get him to school. And no big deal. And I'm not working out with my wife. And so I just did my strength workout for tomorrow, did it today, and then going to the driving range with him because he's really excited about it. He was actually really upset that we weren't going today because he thought we were going today, and his sister threw a fit and yelled at me how I bait and switched her when I asked her, hey, do you want to go to the driving range tomorrow? And she said yes. But back to the overarching point of all this is that, like, it was based on communication, right? It was based on, I say I want to do something. My wife says she wants to do something, and let's figure it out. We share, our calendar, our personal calendars with each other. We invite each other to those shared events. We communicate about these things so that, my wife a couple weeks ago could have a girls' weekend. This week, she could go off to a music festival in Austin, right? I could go up to North Carolina to see my dad a few weeks back, right? And we're able to, like, trade these off. But the biggest thing, and I mentioned this with the driving range, is like the kids getting older. Like, I don't know about you, but do you feel like part of it was just like babies, man, like changing diapers and like making sure they stay asleep and not being able to like know exactly what they're thinking, and they can't really be on their own playing in their room. And like now it feels like a bit of a different ball game sometimes.
Yeah, having both girls be older and able to communicate themselves with actual English language words is definitely much easier. And they also, you know, understand directions better. They don't always follow them, but they at least know what is being said. I think the toughest time was definitely, you know, 3 to 4 year old and baby in a diaper, because you know that's an entirely like it's two different ways of parenting, and you know you really do need, sometimes you need all hands on deck. So I did think, and obviously it was a little bit different because when my older daughter was 4 months old, that's when the pandemic started. You know, we couldn't really go out anyway, so there wasn't really a, you know, I'm heading out and it's one-on-one, one parent and baby. That was not really something we had to deal with. But you know, I think once you've gotten in the rhythm, and yes, unless you've found a way to stop aging yourself or your kids, your kids are growing and getting older in the time in which you are finding a rhythm. I think like you said, it's not just about communication, it's also about just sheer will. You have to want to make it to the point where you can divide and conquer parenting, chores, you know, time with yourself. We're also in the shared calendar game. We also ask each other if we want to go to things together and find ways to turn it into dates, get babysitters, all that stuff. But ultimately for us, it really does come back down to communication. For example, you and I, we are going to a guys trip in January with our two other friends, friend of the show, Eric, and a guy named Chris, who you all haven't met yet. And, you know, we started talking about that, I think, in June. So I gave my wife 6 months notice to know that we are going to go out. It's going to be a Friday, and we're going to come back on a Monday. I will probably be back after bedtime on Monday. Yeah. She's got all the time in the world to prepare to be a solo mom with 2 kids for a weekend and 2 school days. And, you know, I don't feel that badly about it. Whereas Ethan 3 years ago, I'd feel like, oh, I don't know, I haven't given her enough notice. I mean, that's a little bit extreme. I think, you know, anything with at least 2 weeks is great notice. But there are still moments, even today, where, you know, I really feel it when I'm with friends who don't have kids. I've got a friend who isn't the best planner or communicator, but shoots me a text. Hey, I'm in town today. You wanna go out tonight? It's like, dude, I've got 2 kids. I can't just drop everything tonight and tell my wife, hey, I'm going out. I hope you got this handled. You know, what if we haven't even like decided what's for dinner yet? What if, you know, there's a kids activity that day? So sure. I think you got to be realistic about what it is that you're trying to do. But for the most part is, if you know, like, and sometimes I really think about this, like with friends or when I am going out on a trip, it's really like, it's about notice. It's about knowing that you're going to take care of everything that you're responsible for before you go, or just, you know, yeah, I guess notice is just a small segment of the communication piece, but that's kind of where I fall on things. And, you know, it's not just about social life. It's also just about tasks at home, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I think what you touched on was something really important, not just the notice, because I think that goes hand in hand with good communication, right? If you're not, just like you're not being a good partner if you don't allow your spouse to, you know, figure out ways to do at least some of the things they want to do. I also think you're not being a good spouse if you're like springing it on them and just saying, "Oh, by the way,
Sure.
I'm going out with the boys tonight."
Right.
Right? And I think one thing that has really changed for us over the last couple of years, my wife and I both changing jobs, which is something that I think when we did that first episode was not the case, right? We were not in, neither one of us were in our current positions. And working, basically going from self-employment, both of us, to W-2 employment
Mhm.
has given us both, I want to say opportunities, but demands of work travel. And it has built the muscle memory. But I think whether you have work travel or whether you are, self-employed or whether you don't travel at all for your job, whatever your case may be, and you just want to go out socially, sometimes it's about the muscle memory. Because I think when you are scared to do it, or your spouse is scared on the other, your co-parent is scared on the other side of like, I don't know if I can handle it. Try it, right? Dip your toes in
Mhm.
that water. Like go out for a trivia night, and it's not never ending. Maybe the first time you self-impose or discuss an appropriate curfew, right? But I think it's talking about it beforehand and talking about it after and saying, hey, how could this have gone better? How can I
Mhm.
empower you that when I go and do this, like, because I enjoyed myself, if you didn't have the best night, what can I do beforehand that will set you up for success, right? So maybe it's for me, if I'm going out on a given night, I might make lunches ahead of time. Or
Mhm.
when I went to North Carolina a couple weeks ago, like it's not as big of a burden on me when my wife goes out of town when it comes to like packing lunches and making meals, because I do that almost exclusively in our house. But when I go out of town, that's my wife. My wife knows how to cook and she's a wonderful cook. She just never has the interest in doing it. And so when I went out of town, I was like, "Hey, listen, by the way, there's a bag of like frozen orange chicken. All you got to do is cook some rice, and there's a bag of broccoli that you can frozen broccoli that you can throw in it, and there's this thing and this thing." And you just have some things like ready to go that she can heat up that are crowd pleasers. Make it easy, right? Don't make her have to think about dinner, because what I don't want her to do is then spend like 4 straight nights just saying, "Ah, screw it, we'll get takeout every single night."
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
whatever, but like then the
Sure.
kids are going to come to expect it. It's not even about the money or the health. It's more just the kids go, "Whoa, why can't we have Jimmy John's again tonight? Why can't we go get pizza again tonight?" It's just like
Right.
we have Jimmy John's at home, right?
Right. Yeah.
But it's that of like setting them up for success and saying, "Okay, how can I don't want to say earn my time
Mhm.
away, but what can I do?" Whether it's bedtime, whether it's what are your normal responsibilities, and how can you make that transition easier on the other person? So let's say you want to go out to dinner with some friends. You got a good friend in town and you want to go out to dinner, and you're like, "Okay, well, I got to help make dinner for the kids." Okay, well, is there something that could be heat and eat? Right?
Mhm.
Or you gotta do bedtime. Okay, what can I do to sort of make this transition easier? Can I have the kids' PJs laid out? Could
Right.
I, make sure that the water bottle's filled? What are the things I do right at bedtime that could be diverted in these special circumstances? Or what else could I take off my partner's plate to give them, like, what are they doing during that time? Maybe they're washing dishes or something, and I've gone ahead and, like, put away everything, and everything's ready to go so that all they have to worry about and focus on is that bedtime, whatever that may be. I think sort of setting yourself up for success, because then what happens is there's not nearly as much animosity when
Mhm.
you do go out because their night wasn't bad.
Right. And on that note, like another thing as we've been talking that I realize I want to say, but now I have the words for it is, and I mean this in the kindest way possible. I no longer care if it's even. And what I mean by that is there's lots of times when my kids were younger where dads would be talking at a birthday party, moms would be in another corner. Yeah, we're just like, it's just like junior high, dad, boys and girls splitting up. But a dad would be talking about how his wife is mad that he's going on his annual camping trip with his college buddies. And the response is, well, if you and your friends want to go away for a weekend, go. And the wife says, well, that's not what we do. We don't go on trips. We go out for wine. And it's, again, there was a time when I cared more that we hung out differently. Like when my wife next week on my birthday is going to Comic-Con in New York with some friends. Great. Right. Enjoy it. That's awesome. I will never have an interest in gathering you guys and saying, hey, let's go to Comic-Con because my wife went to Comic-Con with her friends and this time it's my turn. That's not really what I'm into. I think it's perfectly fine to be like, okay, well, you're going to Comic-Con for a couple days. All right. This one day next week, I'm peacing out and I'm not going to be there for dinner and bedtime because there's a happy hour at work that I want to get to. It no longer has to be totally even for me to feel better about it. And I think that is something that you also have to learn, not just about yourself, but about your partner, because you got to remember that you and your friends and them and their friends might hang out differently, so like, yeah. And I think, and I always tell my wife sometimes, like, hey, like, always go to the thing you want to go to. I will make it work unless I, like, for some reason am double booked and can't make it work. And it's because I just never want her to feel like she can't hang out. I also don't ever want to feel like I can hang out. But again, I am not her boss.
System is exhausting, right?
Yeah,
if you're
exactly.
Or it's like mentally exhausting, and I can't see that like leading to anything but resentment. I think the opportunity should be.
Yeah. Opportunity equals sure. Yes.
The action doesn't need to be. And like, if you have resentment that your husband's going on a camping trip every year with his buddies because you don't want to do that with your friends, that is a you problem.
Agreed.
Like, that is a you problem on the resentment front, right? Like, I will be perfectly, like, my wife went on a girls' trip a few weekends ago, and again, she's maybe in Texas already, or at least on her way to Texas with our daughter, and they're going to have a great weekend, and she's going to see a couple of those same friends that she saw. One lives in Austin and one lives in Colorado, and she went on a girls' trip last month with both of those individuals and then some. And so she's going to see some of her same friends again. And like, I could be jealous, but I'll also be honest that on the flip side of like, I don't use it as a competition, but I do maybe use it as a litmus test. When we went on a guys trip a couple years ago, a year ago, and then, this guys trip, both times, it's when my wife goes, hey, I'm going to go on this girls trip. And I hop in our group chat and go, yo, we should do a trip. Like,
sure. Yeah.
It is 100% because I have initiated both of those. Everybody's been game, but it's but it is one of those where I'm like, no, that's a good idea. We should totally steal that. We should go.
Sure. Yeah. No. I think stealing equal inspiration. Totally fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think, it's important to, at the same time, having kids is a great built-in excuse to get out of stuff you don't want to do. And, always make sure to remember you have that in your back pocket. But for the most part, I think, especially a year into parenting, maybe 2 if it's a difficult situation, but you should have that rhythm down, and you should be able to hopefully communicate with your partner and make time for yourself and for individuals in your life that don't always involve your immediate household. And I think it's, well, I'm going on year 6 as a dad. And maybe it's easier said than done in my reps, as we talked about. But, I think I think it's good for the family, the marriage, the relationship you have with your kids, to be able to prioritize yourself every now and
I think it's good, and I'll also give a special, shout out to one sort of extenuating circumstance that I've seen with some, friends of mine, as well with kids is, not everybody is in the same situation as you and I, where we're dual income households, right? And so maybe you have a situation where one of the parents is stay at home and one works, and when you are, especially when my wife and I work from home, but when you are working from an office, there is sort of a built-in social network, and it's a little bit easier
Mhm.
to go grab drinks and be invited to happy hours and like hang out with your coworkers a little bit after hours if you want to. And if one person's at home, it can sort of lead to some resentment build up there of like, okay, well, I'm home with this kid all day or kids, and like I never get to go anywhere. I'm stuck in this house all the time. I don't get reprieve from it, right?
Right.
So I think, in that opportunity is equal. Sometimes that takes work because there's not always built in like freedoms where, they're able to get, their release is going to the grocery store without the kid or something like that. It's like, that's maybe not what we're shooting for here. So I think, it's definitely a two-way street of valuing yourself, but also like looking at your partner and going, man, sometimes whether it's giving yourself that little kick in the behind to say,
Mhm.
I need to take some time for myself. Sometimes you need to give your partner that kick in the behind and say, hey, listen, you need to take some time for yourself because you're working really hard and we appreciate you, but things aren't going to fall apart. You got to trust me with this, and you've got to like decompress, do something that's just for you for a night, for a weekend, whatever it is.
Get. I have a very specific example I'm going to share of that happening. So this past Mother's Day, I told the girls, we're going to celebrate your mom. We're going to do this fun stuff, but we're not going to rely on mom to do everything. We get to about 5:00, and my kids just basically wouldn't leave their mom alone. And she says to me, hey, I'm going to put out a group text to all the moms in the neighborhood and say, I'm going to go get sushi. Anyone want to join me? And then she's like, and you're alone till bedtime. I will be back to kiss the girls goodnight. I said, great. And one of the other moms took her up on it, feeling very liberated, saying, oh my God, I'm allowed to do this. I'm allowed to just leave my family on Mother's Day. And my wife said, sure. Yes, you are. So they had a nice 2 moms eating sushi. And we had a great and we had a great night, just daddy and the girls.
I will say, like, I have structured the last few Mother's Days specifically with like, there are 3 periods in this day, and they're in no particular order, but there is one period where you have you time to relax and be appreciated as a mom without our presence. There's a second period. There's some activity that you're going to do with our daughter one-on-one so that she can show her appreciation and you can work on that relationship. And then there's going to be some activity one-on-one that you do with our son. And those are the 3 phases so that you get that time and like you are out of the house or we are out of the house in that first phase. And then the second phase, I am parenting whichever kid you're not with. In the third phase, I flip it. Right. And it's, it's really because I'm like, I'm okay with Father's Day being the exact same way because I'm like, a little bit it's to appreciate dad, but like, you're not dad without the kids. Sure. That's not for everybody. I'm not mandated. This isn't me going, this is how it should be. No, but I do think, on those days, on her birthday, sometimes, on those kinds of appreciation days, especially, it's very helpful to say, hey, one of the best gifts I can give you is not us.
Oh yeah, no, I feel the same way. And my wife definitely feels the same way. I did mention she's going to Comic-Con next week. And missing my birthday. And the other day,
You've
my
only brought
older
it up, I
daughter.
think, 3 times. So
I know my older
You're
daughter
not bitter?
said, "No, I'm really not." Because actually, my younger brother's coming to town. It's going to be the boys and the girls, and my older daughter says to my wife, "Mommy, how could you leave Daddy on his birthday?" And just the fact that she said that was one of like the greatest things ever, because I didn't ask for it. I didn't even want that guilt trip to happen, but it just came naturally to my daughter. So I was pretty impressed. So, yeah. Work on the dad bod.
Yeah, let's do it.
So I weighed in 178.6 full nude right before we recorded. That's 2 pounds heavier than last week. I haven't really done anything different except, I did fast all day today and then have taco night. So I don't know if that matters, but I might weigh myself tomorrow just to see if today was an anomaly and see how I am on just a standard Friday. But I'm not too worried about the 2 pounds here. I'm still looking better each week in the mirror, so I'll take it.
The mirror check for me has been carrying me through. My weight hasn't really moved, and I know it's because like I got 1 foot in and 1 foot out on the like calorie tracking and all that stuff. My movement's there. I'm not doing anything heinous, but just like some days I just don't track.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not, like work's been really busy lately. It's not an excuse, but it's a fact. And it just like leads into like 2:30 rolls around and I haven't had lunch because I've been slammed with back-to-back meetings, and I kind of eat something and I eat something else, and then my brain goes, "Oh, you didn't really eat lunch because you just kind of snacked a bunch." And I'm like, and I don't always count it. I'm hoping to. One of the things I'm going to do this weekend with my wife out of town is I'm planning on spending some time. Like my son and I are probably going to make a Costco run at some point. And I've mentioned Stealth Health Life as an inspiration on Instagram for where I get some high protein recipes. Shared some of those with you. I really like them, but I'm going to make I'm going to try to make 2, if not 3 recipes of like some freezer burritos and just some things to like have on hand more readily available. Right. Cause there's just like a lot of that where I'm like, oh, like kids are eating more. We're not buying quite as many groceries because we're trying not to have like tons of leftovers where we throw stuff out. And so I'm just like, I want to have some like stuff in the freezer that I can just grab and like be a little more locked in for, 4 or 5 weeks, get the last like 5 pounds off, and then see where we are.
Can I make a Costco freezer recommendation for you?
Sure.
The brand is Bibigo, Bibigo, and they're soup dumplings, and they come in trays of 6 that you just pop in the microwave for 2 minutes and you cook them, and they're fantastic. And the tray itself is only 240 calories, so 60.
Come in like a little thing of broth, right?
No, the broth, like it's in there's broth in the soup. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like 6 cups and there's broth inside the cup.
You've got
dumpling. I've gotten something strikingly similar. Yeah, I don't remember if it was that brand. I don't have the packaging, but my daughter had 3 of them, and I had 3 of them the other day.
Oh, they're fantastic.
Her last 3.
They're fantastic. Gotcha. So, they're okay. Yeah,
I'll probably check those out. There's a couple other things that I got my eye on in the Costco freezer section is like grab and go that I don't even have to like meal prep. So I'll definitely probably be looking at it, filling little man with hot dogs and samples and things like that to try and take my time, but probably do a little pre-shopping ahead of time to sort of, get a sense of some things I might be able to grab and just
we are I think like 1 or 2 meat dinners away from having to go into Costco again, but we yesterday got our Costco delivery shipment in of the non-perishable stuff.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's going well. And I did while you were talking, I remembered So I also noticed, I think gaining muscle because at the start of this season, I was very much in my weightlifting. I was doing a lot of low weight, high rep. I am now at mid-weight, high rep, just because I've gotten a lot stronger. So, with that means muscles being built. So I'm probably, gaining some good weight right now would be my assumption. So
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those where like probably are. Every person is different, so I don't want to sit there and like try to prescribe something, but like as someone who's gotten way too deep in the weeds on some of this stuff, usually like when you've had a hiatus from weightlifting, you get a bump for the first 6 to 12 months where you can kind of do that body recomposition thing of like gaining muscle and losing fat at the same time, but at some point that effect really does wear off, and then like
Sure.
you need to at least be maintaining your weight, if not gaining weight, to build significant muscle, or cutting weight to lose fat, and they're really hard to do in any significant amounts simultaneously. So that's sort of where I'm like, I constantly feel like, because I've been consistently weightlifting for several years now, that like I am like, I want to gain muscle, and that's why I'm lifting, but I want to lose fat. And so I feel like I'm always like, I start losing weight, and then like the weights go down or the reps go down, or something like that, because you are going to lose a little bit of muscle, even if you're, maintaining all your protein. And I'm just like, but I want to get stronger. And so like half of the reason I want to like cut fat, like I like how I look in the mirror. If this is how I looked for the rest of my life, I'd be fine. But I'm like, I want to gain muscle, and to gain the muscle I want to do, I want to lose a certain amount of fat, so that when I start gaining weight, there's not some pounds of fat on top of it that I don't want. And it's very vain, but it's also like, that's part of the journey, that it's not for me like a finish line. It's just like constant improvement kind of thing.
Right. Yeah, no, I'm with you there. And yeah, no, I'm at this point where I kind of just, I set my goal to be able to do, especially the upper body exercises, 3 sets of 20 reps at a weight. And once I hit that point, I move up weight. So, I've been doing this consistently since March. So I've gotten to the point where, I'm clearly a lot stronger than I was. So I'm hoping that that's where the extra weight's coming from. So
yeah, I follow pretty, like, not the same number protocol, but I've started following just fairly standard, all of it's progressive overload, right? Which is what you really need. But it's like, I do 8 reps of an exercise at a weight, and then I work my way up to 12 reps per set at a weight. And that last set, like, I'm going to failure, right? I'm always going to failure in at least one of my sets, like true, like I can't do another single rep failure. And then I bump the weight up 5-10 pound, depending on what it is. And then I go back to 8 reps, and I build up that way. And it's, maybe not the exact translation of, like, I think 5 pounds more, but 4 reps less is probably less total weight lifted, but it's what ends up working. And it helps make pretty steady gains until I turn into an old man and like tweak my shoulder or something. And then I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah. The only exercise right now I don't go to true failure is the barbell bench press, because I don't have a spotter. But like with the dumbbells, I go to true failure, because you just let them fall.
Doing the barbell bench press for that exact reason. Like I use like the isometric machine, like not like the plates, but the one where you stack the weight plates on the arms kind of thing, and it gives me a good stretch. And I do that one because if it fails, it just hits here. Right. And even though I do have my wife there, I'm like, I like this better because I've had a shoulder impingement in both shoulders. And I'm like, I like the forced range of motion here to not get out over and hunched and pinching things. So I change it up what the exercise is, but yeah, there's
Yeah.
only a few, you know, like bench presses, and like I don't think I would ever really, if I was doing them in this particular weight cycle, I would never really go to true failure on like a back squat, right?
Sure,
Because I don't want to be under that. I don't want to be under that
No.
bar in either circumstance.
Exactly.
I had to save
Yeah.
some people from true bench press failures with like 300 pounds, and I'm like,
Yeah.
heck do you do this without a spotter? Like, come on.
Yeah, I've seen some tough things, but yeah, you know, so I'm other than that one, yeah, true failure, at least on that last set, is what I try to do. So
Yeah, for sure.
cool.
Helpful.
So yeah, everybody, thanks for working on the Dad Pod with us. Next week, as I may have mentioned, I don't know if you guys heard this, but it's my birthday next week, actually, on the day that we record. So I'm expecting Alex to throw me a pod party.
Yeah, we'll do something. We'll do something pretty amazing, you know.
Yeah, something like that. I like that. Good. All right. Again, everybody, please make sure to like and subscribe, particularly on YouTube. You can find all of our information on workingonthedadpod.com. Thank you all for being here, and have a great week.